Our verse today is Acts chapter 17, verse 24. The God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man. Paul was in Athens, a city full of idols, if you read Acts 17, verse 16. Paul conversed with the Jews, the devout people in the town. He also engaged the Epicurean and Stoic philosophers. Who were the Epicureans and Stoics? The Epicureans taught that pleasure was the chief end of human existence. They were atheists and held that the world was not created nor formed by divine power. Therefore, life was not regulated by any higher moral or spiritual good. Instead, the highest aim should be pleasure and sensual gratification. On the other hand, the Stoics were pantheists. They condemned worshipping images and using temples. They believed that virtue was necessary and sufficient to attain happiness. Their emphasis was on the ethical life. These two schools of thought were opposed to each other. Still, they wanted to engage Paul in the Areopagus, the prominent place for intellectual discourse during the Roman time in Athens. Paul will use the opportunity to speak to their beliefs and positions. Paul begins by affirming that the people of Athens were religious. However, he noticed an inscription on one of the altars which read, "To the unknown God." Paul claimed that he was bringing them the message of that unknown God. He opens his argument from our verse for today. This verse affirms the creation of the world by God, the omnipotence of God, and his existence beyond his creation. Both schools of philosophy, the Epicureans and the Stoics, can see and observe the created world. Paul's first argument that God created the world and everything in it addresses the Epicureans. A look at nature should tell them that there is a being behind everything that exists. Aristotle, the great philosopher, had come to this conclusion. God is omnipotent creator and absolute, sufficient in himself. The book of Genesis begins with the creation of the world, and the Bible also describes God as Lord of heaven and earth. If you read Isaiah 42 verse 5, Exodus 20 verse 21. Still, God is greater than the universe, and so his creation cannot contain him, the creator. Therefore, Paul argues that we cannot squeeze God into a tiny place called a temple when he created the whole universe and everything in it. Again, Paul here echoes the words of Solomon at the dedication of the temple in 1 Kings chapter 8 verse 27. He also reflects the words of Jesus that those who worship God must worship in spirit and truth. And a time will come when people will no longer worship in Jerusalem as the holy mountain, if you read John chapter 4 verse 24 following. But does Paul say we should not have places of worship or use the temple or the church? Not at all. St. Thomas Aquinas explains why we need places of worship. He says, God is not confined to any place, and therefore it is not on his account that a tabernacle or temple has to be made. Worshippers or corporal beings need a special tabernacle or temple set up for the worship of God, and this for two reasons. First, that the thought of its being appointed to the worship of God might instill a greater sense of reverence. Second, that the way it is arranged and furnished might signify in various respects the excellence of Christ's divine and human nature. That is from the Summa Theologica. So we need the temple to keep God's presence always before our eyes. Otherwise, our limited minds might forget even the evidence before us from creation. Lord, may we never undermine the beauty of creation. May that beauty we see in creation help us appreciate you more and long to serve and worship you as our God. Amen. God bless you. and I wish you a pleasant day.